Hello, and welcome to Soothing Pod Sleep Stories. I am Lauren, and tonight we will soar through the skies with Amelia Earhart, the girl who dreamed of flying higher than the clouds. From her childhood adventures to daring flights across oceans, we'll follow her courage, curiosity, an unstoppable spirit. Let this story lull you into a world of wonder where dreams take flight and the sky belongs to everyone. On the wide plains of Kansas, where tall grasses moved like green oceans, and summer skies stretched wider than anyone could measure, a little girl named Amelia Earhart grew up with more curiosity than most people knew what to do with. She was born in 1897 in a small house wrapped in sunlight and wind, and from the very beginning, she treated the world like an exciting puzzle waiting to be explored. Amelia didn't walk so much as wander, always drifting toward something new. She climbed trees high enough that her mother would call up, asking if she planned to come back down anytime soon. She collected insects, especially the ones that shimmered like tiny jewels, and she loved racing her sled down snowy hills fast enough that her cheeks tingled and her laughter echoed behind her. More than anything, Amelia loved movement, the rush of running, the thrill of jumping, the feeling of wind pushing against her face. Even before she ever saw an airplane, she felt drawn to the sky in a way she couldn't quite explain. At night, she would lean out of her bedroom window, resting her arms on the cool sill, and stare up at stars that flickered like silver sparks. She wondered where the moonlight traveled, whether clouds ever got lonely, and what it might feel like to be high above everything she knew. Back then, airplanes were almost unheard of. The world was still learning how to build machines that could lift off the ground, and most adults believed flying was something only birds were meant to do. But Amelia didn't think like most people. She believed rules were simply things waiting to be challenged. Gently, bravely, and with a smile. One summer afternoon, when Amelia was still young, her father took her to a fairground where a small, rickety airplane sat on display. Its wings were dusty, its tail crooked, and its engine smelled strongly of oil. Most children ran toward it in delight, but Amelia only glanced at it curiously before wandering off to pet a nearby horse. She had no idea that one day she would become one of the most famous pilots in the world. At that moment, she was more interested in animals than engines. But the sky was patient. It waited for her. Even without realizing it, Amelia was preparing herself for a life of adventure. She built little ramps in the backyard to see how far she could leap. She convinced her younger sister to help her try tiny experiments, like testing how far they could glide in a homemade box roller coaster. Her fearless spirit was growing stronger by the day, and every night, when the wind slipped through the open window and brushed against her cheeks, she felt a quiet excitement, as if the world was whispering, "There's something wonderful waiting for you, just a little higher than you've ever been." Amelia didn't yet know what shape her dream would take, but the wind knew, and the wind never forgot her. Years passed, and Amelia grew taller, braver, and even more curious about the world. Her family moved often to Iowa, to Minnesota, to Illinois, and finally to California. Each move brought a new landscape, new friends, and new adventures. But Amelia never lost the sense that something bigger was waiting for her. She didn't know what it was yet, only that she felt it every time she looked up at the sky. In her teenage years, Amelia discovered she liked learning about many things: science, medicine, mechanics, even photography. She read books about daring explorers who sailed across dangerous oceans and traveled to distant mountains. Their courage fascinated her. But still, she didn't think about flying. Not yet. The moment that would change her life came softly on a warm day in California. Amelia attended an air show with her family. There were colorful banners, crowds of excited people, and a smell of dust and engine fuel mixing in the air. She watched from the sidelines, expecting to see a quiet little plane putter around the sky. But then, a stunt pilot spotted her standing apart from the crowd. With a playful swoop, he dipped his plane so low that the wind from the wings whipped Amelia's hair straight back. The engine roared like a dragon as the airplane surged upward again, climbing into a bright blue sky. Amelia froze, astonished, breathless. It was as if the sky itself had leaned down and whispered her name. Just like that, something inside her shifted. She didn't simply want to fly, she needed to. The moment the plane passed overhead, Amelia felt a kind of electricity in her chest, a spark that lit up everything she thought she knew about herself. From that day on, she looked at the sky with new eyes. She didn't rush into lessons right away. Flying was expensive, almost impossibly so, for a young woman in the early 1900s. So Amelia decided to earn her own way. She worked anywhere she could: nurse's aide during wartime, telephone operator, even a truck driver. She saved every spare dollar she could manage, folding each one carefully into a small envelope she kept hidden in a drawer. Whenever she grew tired, she would look upward and imagine the world from above. Mountains shrinking to gentle shadows, rivers gleaming like winding ribbons, towns turning into tiny, peaceful clusters. Her dream kept her going. Finally, after months of saving, Amelia found a flying instructor, Nita Snook, one of the first female pilots in the United States. Netta was confident, determined, and unafraid of hard work. Everything Amelia admired. On the day of her first flying lesson, Amelia stepped onto the dusty airfield. With her heart pounding and her hands trembling, the small plane waited for her, sunlight gleaming off its wings. She looked at the sky, wide and open and full of promise. Then she climbed in. The moment the plane lifted from the ground, Amelia Earhart felt something she had never felt before. Something both peaceful and extraordinary. She felt home. Learning to fly wasn't easy, but for Amelia Earhart, every challenge felt like a new way to grow. Her instructor, Nita Snook, was tough, wise, and incredibly skilled. Netta believed that flying wasn't just about machines or engines. It was about listening to the air, trusting your instincts, and respecting the sky. On Amelia's first days at the dusty airfield, she practiced the basics. Climbing into the cockpit smoothly, fastening her goggles, checking the controls, and understanding every switch, dial, and lever. Neta showed her how the wind behaved, how the wings lifted, and why the engine sometimes sputtered like it had the hiccups. At first, Amelia felt clumsy. The plane wobbled when she tried to steer. Her landings made bumps that rattled her teeth. But Netta never raised her voice. She simply nodded and said, "Try again." And Amelia did. Again and again. Flying made her feel alive in a way nothing else ever had. Each morning, she woke before sunrise, eager to return to the airfield. Some days, she swept the hangar floors just to earn a few extra minutes in the plane. Some days, she helped mechanics clean engine parts so she could learn how everything worked. Her determination shone brighter than the California sun. After weeks of practice, something remarkable happened. Her movements smoothed out. Her turns grew steadier. Her landings softened. The sky no longer felt like a stranger. It felt like a gentle friend guiding her upward. Before long, Amelia wanted a plane of her own. She worked hard and saved even more, putting away money bit by bit till she could afford a small aircraft. The one she chose was bright yellow, cheerful as a sunflower in summer. She named it the canary. With the canary, Amelia soared higher than she ever had before. She practiced long hours, circling above the fields until the farms below looked like tiny quilt squares stitched together. The wind hummed past her ears, and the world seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions. Then, in 1922, she set her first major record. In the canary, she climbed to an altitude of 14,000 feet, higher than any woman had flown at the time. The air grew cold and thin, but Amelia felt only joy. She had reached the kind of height she used to dream about as a child, the kind she once imagined while staring out her bedroom window in Kansas. The newspapers wrote her name. People began calling her Lady Lindy, comparing her to the famous pilot Charles Lindbergh. But Amelia wasn't focused on fame. She was focused on possibility. She knew this was only the beginning. The sky had opened its arms to her, and she wasn't going to stop climbing. Not now, not ever. By the early 1930s, Amelia Earhart had done something far greater than break records. She had become a symbol of courage for people around the world. Girls wrote her letters saying they wanted to fly just like she did. Boys clipped newspaper articles about her and tucked them into their school books. And adults, even those who once said flying was no place for a woman, couldn't help admiring her steady confidence and quiet determination. But Amelia had one dream that hovered above all the others like a shining star. She wanted to fly alone across the Atlantic Ocean. Only one pilot before her, Charles Lindbergh, had accomplished this dangerous journey. The Atlantic was unpredictable. Storms swept across it like dark giants. Winds shifted without warning, and long stretches of ocean offered no place for rest. But Amelia was certain she could do it. She felt the same spark she had felt as a young girl when the stunt pilot flew overhead. A feeling that said, "This sky is waiting for you." She prepared carefully. Her chosen plane was a red Lockheed Vega, sturdy and swift. Mechanics checked every bolt and wire. Amelia studied maps, weather reports, and emergency plans. She knew this flight would demand not just skill, but bravery, patience, and calm. On the cold morning of May 20th, 1932, Amelia stood beside her Vega. Fog lingered over the runway. The ocean wind whispered across the fields. She took a deep breath, fastened her leather jacket, and climbed into the cockpit. Inside, the world felt small and focused. Just Amelia, the controls, and a dream as wide as the sky. She took off just after dawn. At first, the flight felt smooth, almost peaceful. Clouds drifted beneath her like soft white pillows. The sun climbed higher, turning the edges of the wings gold. But soon the challenges arrived. Thick fog, freezing air, and winds that pushed the plane off course. Ice formed on the wings, making the plane shudder. Her engine coughed and sputtered more than once. Amelia stayed calm. She adjusted, corrected, encouraged the engine aloud as if speaking to an old friend. Hours passed. Then more hours. Only the steady rhythm of the propeller kept her company. After 14 hours and 56 minutes of flying alone over open sea, she spotted a patch of green. Ireland. She found a small field and landed gently, her hands shaking with relief and triumph. A farmer approached, wiping the dirt off his boots. He stared at the strange red plane and asked, bewildered, "Have you flown far?" Amelia smiled, her goggles still pushed up on her forehead. "From America," she said softly. With that quiet sentence, she became the first woman in history to fly solo across the Atlantic. Around the world, newspapers celebrated, children cheered, and somewhere deep inside, Amelia knew she had done exactly what she was meant to do: follow the sky wherever it led. After her famous Atlantic flight, Amelia Earhart became one of the most recognized pilots in the world. But fame wasn't what she cared about. What mattered most to her was something she had believed since she was young. Dreams are meant to be chased, no matter how high they fly. Amelia spent the next few years writing books, giving speeches, and meeting children who told her she made them feel brave. She always answered them with the same warm smile and gentle words. You can do anything if you work hard and believe in yourself. She wanted everyone, especially young girls, to know that they belonged in the sky just as much as anyone else. But even with her busy schedule, Amelia felt another adventure calling her name. This time, it was the biggest one she had ever imagined, flying around the entire world. No woman had ever done it before, and only a few men had accomplished the journey. The earth was vast, filled with oceans, mountains, deserts, and unpredictable weather. The flight would require careful planning, steady nerves, and a strong, reliable plane. That plane was the Lockheed Electra, a sleek silver aircraft with twin engines and long, graceful wings. Its polished metal shimmered as if it were made to touch sunlight. Amelia loved it immediately. To help with navigation, she chose an experienced navigator named Fried Noonan. He understood charts, stars, and long-distance flying better than almost anyone. Together, they studied maps spread across tables, tracing their planned route with careful fingers. Their path would take them across South America, over the deep blues of the Atlantic, across the deserts of Africa, the jungles of Southeast Asia, and the wide islands of the Pacific. Each part of the world had its own challenges. Some places had wild storms. Some had mountains taller than the clouds. Others had tiny landing strips where they would have to touch down with perfect precision. But Amelia didn't worry. She felt the familiar excitement, the same spark she felt as a little girl staring at the night sky. She knew she was doing exactly what she was meant to do. Their journey began in March 1937. Crowds gathered to wave as the Electra lifted into the air, its engines humming like a promise. Amelia and Fred flew from California to South America, first stopping in cities where people cheered as they landed. Then they crossed the Atlantic again, this time together, and landed in Africa. From there, they flew over golden deserts, along coastlines that looked like painted ribbons, and above bustling towns where children pointed up and shouted in awe. Then came India, where warm winds carried the scent of spices. Then Southeast Asia, where bright green jungles stretched for miles. Wherever Amelia landed, she greeted people with kindness, curiosity, and joy. She didn't simply want to fly over the world. She wanted to meet it. By the time they reached the Pacific, they had traveled tens of thousands of miles. The world that once seemed so big had become a place of welcoming faces and boundless beauty. But the most challenging part of the journey still lay ahead. The long flight toward a tiny island in the middle of the ocean. A flight that would test everything Amelia believed in. Amelia Earhart's final adventure began in 1937 as she and her navigator, Fred Noonan, prepared for the last, most challenging leg of their journey. A flight across the vast Pacific Ocean toward Howland Island. The sky above was endless. The ocean below stretched like a liquid mirror. And every gust of wind felt both exciting and serious. Amelia checked her maps, the instruments, and the fuel. Every detail mattered. The Electra lifted into the sky with a quiet roar, cutting through clouds that shimmered like silver ribbons. Amelia and Fred settled into a rhythm, their hands steady on the controls, eyes scanning the horizon. Hours passed. The sun rose high, and the water below glistened with tiny diamonds of light. Every small island or atoll looked like a miracle in the blue emptiness. Then came the challenge. Radio signals, which should have guided them, grew faint. Amelia listened carefully, adjusting her course again and again. She remained calm and confident, even when the winds shifted unexpectedly. She had faced storms, high altitudes, and long, lonely flights before, and she trusted her skill and her plane. But somewhere over the Pacific, the Electra disappeared from view. Amelia and Fred were never found. The world wondered what had happened, but the mystery didn't erase the courage she had shown. She had flown farther, braver, and higher than most people could imagine. Even though Amelia Earhart vanished that day, her story did not end. Children continued to dream of airplanes, of adventure, and of reaching for the sky. Museums displayed photographs of her smiling in a leather jacket, goggles on her forehead, and her hands resting confidently on the plane. Schools told her story as an example of determination, curiosity, and bravery. Amelia showed the world something very important. Courage is not about never feeling afraid. It's about choosing to fly anyway, even when the path ahead is uncertain. She inspired girls and boys to explore, to imagine, and to trust themselves. And though she was no longer visible in the skies above, her spirit seemed to linger in every plane that soared, every bird that glided, and every child who looked up and whispered, "I want to see how far I can go." Amelia Earhart's life was full of firsts. The first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, a record-breaking altitude in her first plane, countless hours teaching and inspiring others. But her greatest achievement was showing the world that the sky belonged to anyone with a dream and the courage to chase it. And so, as the sun sets and the stars begin to twinkle softly in the night, imagine Amelia's silver plane gliding peacefully above the clouds. The wind brushes against the wings, gentle and calm, carrying her spirit across the sky. She whispers quietly to all the dreamers below, "The sky is always waiting. Go find your own adventure." Even though Amelia Earhart's final flight remains a mystery, her spirit continues to soar. She reminds every child that the world is full of possibilities, and the sky, whether above fields, oceans, or cities, is a place to dream, explore, and imagine. Her courage whispers softly in the wind, telling listeners that obstacles can be overcome, and that even the smallest steps toward a dream matter. Every plane that lifts off, every kite that catches a breeze, and every starry night watched from a window carries a bit of her daring spirit. So, as the night grows deeper and the world drifts into calm, Remember Amelia's gentle message. The sky belongs to everyone, and there is always room for new adventures. Let your dreams rise like her plane, steady and bright, and float softly into the quiet, welcoming night. I hope you've enjoyed this sleep story, and it's led you to a night of restful sleep. Please join me again tomorrow for another sleep story. Until then, sweet dreams.